just waiting for you. I'm 2 minutes early, so I'm just saying, who is coming? And I can't see from far away. Hi. We're just giving people a minute to get here. Hello, girls. How are you? I'm going to do my best not to touch my hair during this live because I'm getting so sick of myself touching my hair, but it's just like so great. Ash, hi. Okay, so as you're getting here, just a reminder that tonight's live is about why I feel so passionately about having a beautiful home. My air conditioning is kind of fixed. Our friend, oh hi, one boy, the home scoop. Our air conditioning is kind of fixed. I have my fan on full blast, hence why it's kind of windy in here. But yes, it's partially fixed. It's starting to cool down again now, but it's not keeping up still. My husband's like good friend does air conditioning, HVAC, and so he might come back tonight to look at it one more time and see what's going on. But it's not like fully broken. It's just like set at 74 and then like gradually gets up to 79, and then when the sun goes down, it like will gradually get back down to 74. So it's not keeping up with itself, but it was 116 degrees today, so that could be it. That could have something to do with it. Anyways. Okay, so I'm going to just get started because even with lives, you can rewatch them. So I feel like whoever isn't here that wanted to be here will be able to watch it later. It is kind of bedtime for some people. My youngest fell asleep in the car on the way to the chiropractor today, so she's still awake. But my oldest is snuggling her in their bed, and so it should be fine, which is very on brand for the topic that we're talking about tonight. So as I have decided that like interior design is my passion, I sort of knew that that was because I grew up in a home that was really beautiful and that my mom was really good at interior design. She never went to school for it, but even her mom, so my mom is from England, if you guys don't know that, and her mom lived in a teeny tiny like government housing. My mom's whole life growing up, they did not have any money, but my Nana, they would joke that the walls were like 3 inches thicker because my Nana had changed and replaced her wallpaper so many times. So my mom grew up with not a ton of money, but a mom that always took pride in her home, even though she didn't own it until later in her life when my family got to buy it for her. But she didn't own it her whole life, but she took so much pride in it. She was changing out wallpapers. She always switched out her couch. She changed out her drapes. Like she just changed her home all the time, her whole life. I'm going to already start getting emotional, dang it. My Nana passed away 2 years ago from about right now. And so it's really special to me that I know for a fact that I got this love of interior design from a long line of women who took a lot of pride in their homes and in creating homes that made them feel happy and made their families feel happy. So fast forward to my mom, and my mom moved here when she was 19 from England. She met my dad when he was on serving a mission for our church. And if you know this story, I apologize, but I'm just going to give the background for those of you who don't know. She met him when he was serving a mission for our church, and she had already been baptized, a member of our church. You can listen more about that story, I think, under testimony or my mom's story. It's in one of my highlight bubbles. I'll find it for you. But she was a convert, and so he was serving a mission, and she was a ward missionary and went on splits with his sisters, and that's kind of how she met my dad. My dad actually baptized my 2 aunts who are no longer members of the church. It's really hard in England to be a member of the church. So they both still live there, and oh yes, girl, from the United Kingdom. And so my mom, being a convert, met my dad. My dad came home from his mission. They rode a few times, and my mom was coming to Utah actually to be a nanny, and my dad wrote her from a small town in Arizona called Snowflake, Arizona, and said, hey, you should come visit me like first before you go to Utah. It's kind of like on the way from across the pond. So my mom came down here, met my dad in Snowflake. They fell in love and then moved to the valley. It has what we call Mesa a few years later. So my mom didn't live by her family her whole adult life. From 19 on, she never lived with her family again. And as my mom created new homes and all those things, I know it's something that she loved to do also, and I'm sure that came from her mom loving to do it. So fast forward, I am the oldest child, and I feel like this story actually really does begin when I'm really, really little. So we had this house, I remember in Val Vista Lakes is what it's called if you're from around here. And it was this beautiful 2-story house. It's one of my first memories that I have is living in this house. And I remember that, I remember we moved in and that my mom decorated the whole thing for me. And I remember that it had yellow walls and it had a border of wallpaper around the room. And I remember that we used to lay in my bed, my mom and I, when I was really little. Had to have been like 4 or 5. Like, this is literal memory. So this is when it all sort of started for me. Then I'll tell you a few stories that sort of go along with it throughout the ages of my life. But I was 4 or 5. My sister was born when I was 4, almost 5, because I remember she got put in my room. So the crib was put in my room. So it was mine and my sister's room. And it had this border wallpaper. And I still remember by the air vent, there was like a piece of wallpaper that was my mom ran out of, I'm assuming, border. And so she just ended it. So every night she'd be like, oh, I really need to fix that. Oh, I really need to do that. And I remember when we moved out a few years later that she did not ever fix it the whole time we lived there. So I remember we lived there for a few years. So when I was 8 years old, I remember that was the first time I ever had a panic attack. I was watching Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, but like the old school one with Justin Timberlake. And I remember that there were paramedics on there that were going to someone's house already having an emotional voice, to go and pick up a woman who was having a heart attack. And I remember watching this with my brother, and I started to feel so anxious. Like, what if I had a heart attack? I was 8 years old, you guys. So that's why it makes me so emotional, because it just breaks my heart. I was 8 years old, and I remember watching this woman having a heart attack, and I remember feeling so scared. And I remember not feeling like I could run and go tell my mom, and we were really close, but I just remember thinking, like, this is so embarrassing. And so I remember running up to my room with my heart just racing, and I was just like freaking out, and I thought I was having a heart attack at 8 years old. And I remember going in my room and closing the door, and I remember curling up in my bed and just being like so afraid, like so afraid. And I remember laying in my room and looking at all of the wallpaper and the border and the pillows, and I was snuggled up in my bed, and I remember feeling so safe. And I remember as I started to like see the border and remember the funny stories of my mom laying in my bed with me, and that we were missing that piece, I remember feeling more grounded and like I was okay and it was going to be okay. I just remember calming down. I didn't have the words to articulate this to my mom, and so I remember I didn't tell her for a little bit. But I remember how safe I felt in my room. So that was sort of my first experience with anxiety at 8 years old. And subsequently, our home, that same home, got broken into and ransacked by a neighbor that happened to be obsessed with my mom. And one day we had to leave. We went to dinner at a friend's house on a Sunday, and we got a call that the police were at our house, that someone had broken into our home. And I never got to go back to that house ever. I never got to go back again, because we were told and advised never to go back there because somebody wanted to hurt my dad and my mom. And so, long story long, it ended up being an obsessive neighbor. But I remember that started for me, the anxiety sort of in that house, and then not having that safe place for a little bit. We ended up having to sleep in the basement of one of our friends' houses, I remember, until my parents found a house for us to buy. And I don't know if it took like months or years. Like, I wasn't old enough to really understand time. I know it wasn't years, but I don't know if it took 1 month or if it took 8 months. I remember living in our friend Vicky's, my mom's friend Vicky's house, for like what felt like a really long time. And that's when I finally started talking to my dad about anxiety and those kinds of things. And then I continued to struggle with it. So we moved into our fast forward to one of our houses. I can't remember. We moved a lot because my dad had his real estate license and my mom loved interior design. But I remember once we got to our next house that I just felt so safe again. And my mom and I got to pick out the stuff for my room. And we picked like a purple wallpaper and big flowers. And I felt, no, the next one was a pink wallpaper and these big pink flowers. And I remember how safe I felt again. And that I finally felt like I had a home again, and I had a room that was mine, that I got to help sort of decorate with my mom, and that I knew my mom had decorated with me in mind, and I felt safe. And so I feel like that's where my love of interior design began, or my association with the fact that beautiful rooms equals safety and happiness. And I felt like I was safe in there, and I felt like I could be my best self in there. I felt like I was connected to something bigger than myself, that it wasn't just me scared and floating out in the world, but that I had a home, I had a safe place, that when I did feel scared and the world was scary to me, that I could come back to, and that I could like hide and just come and feel good and secure in. And so as I grew up, I continued to have anxiety, and I remember at 13 years old that at 12 you start to go to girls camp for young women's, and it's like you leave your family overnight and you go to like a sleepaway camp with all girls. And I remember being so anxious to leave, and that my mom didn't make me go for like the first 2 years because I just did not want to leave my house. And I remember that on the one hand, that could be bad. I understand that. Like, hey girl, get out your house. You're going to be fine. But for me, it was just so scary. And so I remember just how safe I felt in my house. I also remember that one Christmas, my mom was going to redo my room for Christmas, and that she kicked me out of it for like a week or two, and then she redid my entire room. And I remember to this day that it had purple, sort of like marbly wallpaper on like the first quarter from ceiling to like a quarter down the wall. Then there was like a molding trim, a border, a purpley floral border, and then there was like a stripy purple wallpaper. So there's 3 wallpapers. And I remember that my mom did this thing where I feel like she invented it. She was so smart. And she took this fringe and she hung it across the solid purple, and it like swagged like this, but the opposite direction. And I remember on Christmas morning, then she got me chenille vintage bedding, and I had this little vintage pillow on my bed. And I remember that the morning of Christmas, when I woke up and I got to go into my room, I just cried because I was so happy. Because not only did I struggle with anxiety, but so does my mom. And I remember growing up feeling like sometimes I was nervous that like she would be in a bad place, or that a bad thing would be coming in, and she would have a panic attack, and those really scared me. But I remember in this moment when I walked into my room that my mom loved me so much, and that she was giving the best of herself to me by creating this room for me to have that made me feel safe, that she loved to do, that she created with her own 2 hands, with me in mind. And I was older then. I was like, I think it was like, 10 or 11 or 12. And I remember just feeling so happy and so grateful. And throughout the years, like when things would be really hard, when my mom would have panic attacks, or when I would feel nervous, that room was like a reminder to me that she loved me so much, and that she was always trying to give her best to me, even when she struggled really bad. And subsequently after that, I remember my room in high school, we moved to a different room. My favorite color was obviously purple. My next room had this wrought iron bed that we had found, and it had cherubs on it, like little fatty cherubs, and it was like a bronzy wrought iron. And I remember that room, and I remember I had custom drapes made, and they were like purple and cream, and like my favorite purple was like a deep burgundy purple. And so I remember this high school room, and I remember the bedding was like a velvet purple. And I remember that I had a cute little chair and this TV. I had a cute dresser with my stereo on it. And I remember that it was in that room that I was in high school, and that I was taking seminary, and I was learning about my Heavenly Father and how He loved me and felt about me. You see what I mean? And I remember sitting on the floor of that room reading my scriptures and learning for myself that I believed that the church was true, and that I knew that I was a daughter of God, and that I had worth and value. I remember a bulletin board in that room where I pinned up all my handouts from Young Women's that meant so much to me. That was also the room that I lived in when my husband now was my boyfriend then, and went on his mission. And I sobbed and sobbed because I missed him so much, and where I wrote him letters, and where I planned my future with him, and all of those kinds of things. I also remember going into that room a little bit younger as a 15-year-old girl, sobbing hysterically and sitting in that same chair that I was describing to you. And I remember looking at my body, and I was never like a big kid or a big girl growing up. I was actually quite skinny, but I was very lurpy. I am still lurpy. I'm 5'7", and my arm span is 3 inches longer than my height. So I'm just the lurpiest, and I have the longest legs. And I remember sitting in this chair and like slouching down in it and looking at my body and just being like, I am so ugly, or like something horrible and terrible. and just thinking like, oh, this body, oh, I'm the worst. Why can't I be short like so-and-so or look like this like so-and-so? And crying and falling asleep on my floor. Hashtag hormones. And I remember waking up the next day and just being like, it's okay. It's okay. Like, I'm blessed. I'm lucky. Like, look what I have. Look what makes you happy. And so my room for me and my home for me, extending that feeling out into our family room where our family would like have prayers and scripture study together, where we sat on literally the world's most comfortable couches every Thursday night and watched Friends as a family, where we watched American Idol as a family, where we had family friends over. My friend Courtney Rogers, who does my eyebrows, was my friend, a family friend. She was technically my friend of me, but we were friends half the time. And her family would come over and watch American Idol with us, and we would just like vote, and we would have the best time ever. And her dad died. Colby, I'm sorry that they're all morbid. Right after we graduated from high school, and he used to come to that house and sit there and feel comfortable in my home that my mom had created for us. I remember Christmases. I remember just how my mom would spread presents all over our home, and that our home was always so clean and so beautiful. And she just was, my mom, our house was so clean. Like, you think I'm a clean person. Currently, I'm surrounded by a little bit of clean laundry, but I got that from my mom. My mom kept a really clean, beautiful smelling home for us. And so those are the feelings and associations I have with home. And I just genuinely believe that so much of that has to do with the intentions my mom had while creating and designing a home for our family. She picked dressers that had storage, that were beautiful, that fit the space. She picked lamps that set lighting and mood in our home. My mom hates overhead lights, and I vicariously hate overhead lights. Overhead lights are like the abomination and the death of everything good. And so she had lamps, and I know when she picked those lamps, she loved the feeling of when the sun was down and the lamps were on, and we were just in this cozy, moody lighting, and we were all just hanging out together. My mom had those valances. She used to sew all her own valances, and then I remember when she had a woman come and like sew these big balloon valances, and how she picked the fabrics herself, and she wanted to frame these windows that looked out to our beautiful backyard where she would watch us play. I know that her heart and soul was put into those homes, and we had quite a few, each and every time, thinking about our family. I remember when my parents had a vasectomy and then a reversal. Please don't ask me how I know these things, because my parents, TMI, always TMI. But my brother, I remember when my mom knew that she had another child. My sister was 9, I was 13, and my mom knew that she was missing a baby. So she made my dad, we all knew, and go fix the problem. And my mom got pregnant. And I remember when my brother Cole came and how happy we were. And I remember helping my mom stick those Winnie the Pooh decals up all over his room, and creating his nursery and his matching bumper set and his crib sheets and his dresser and his lamps. And I remember how happy we were that we were getting this little baby that we had all wanted so desperately. And we're so happy that my parents were having. And so all of those things just mean the world to me. And every single time that we decorated a room together, forget about it. Like, she was so kind to let me help and to let me say what I loved and what I wanted. Or when she did surprise me, to always think about me and what I needed and what would make me super happy. I think I was easy to please because I love interior design. And so she could get me the best present by just getting me a new throw pillow or something. But all of those feelings and all of those moments and all of those memories, all of my best memories happened in my home. And I'm curious, I know this is not the case for everybody. I know some horrible things happen in people's homes. But I wonder, how many of your memories like happened in your home? How many good things do you remember from growing up? Like, I was looking through my grandma's photo album after my grandpa just passed away. And my grandma and grandpa have lived in this home that my grandma still lives in now for all of these years since my grandpa had passed away. And I was looking through, and there was the kitchen table room now, but it used to have a piano and there was no table in there. And there's pictures of my dad and his brothers and his sister sitting all on the piano. And then there was a couch in there, and then there was chairs in there. And she has all these beautiful photos of this tiny little humble home that my grandparents lived in and raised all 5 of their kids in as school teachers in Snowflake, Arizona. And I was asking my grandma after my grandpa passed away, like, are you going to want to leave? Are you scared to be here alone? And she said, I'm not afraid, because my grandpa actually wanted to die at home because it was his favorite place on earth too. And so she said, he's here with me, and all of these memories are here with me. So the reason that I love interior design so much, and I love the home so much, is because it is this one place, no matter whether we move a million times or we have just the one our whole lives, it is the single place where we get to be exactly who we're meant to be. It's the place for me that is closest, besides the temple or besides your church buildings, whatever it feels like for you, but even more than a church building for me. My home is a sanctuary, is a temple, is a place where I can connect with my family like I can nowhere else. I go on vacation with my family and I'm like sort of a monster because my anxiety is like at a 40, and I'm like, don't fall in the pool, don't go on the beach, don't forget your sunblock, don't forget this bag, don't forget this. And I do my best, but when I'm home with my family and I'm here with them and we're together, knowing that they're safe and that they're protected and that I have created a space and an environment for them to be able to go into their rooms when they're having a hard time and get a part of the best of me and know that I love them, even if I yelled, or even if I was short, or even if I'm not perfect, that they have a space that I have purposefully made where they can feel safe, with bedding and linens that are soft and cozy and secure, with those zipper beddies that I feel like make you feel so safe when you're in them, with art that is the initials of their name that I've created for them, with rugs that I chose purposely because they're soft if they ever fell out of their bed, with lamps over each of their beds so that they're safe if they feel nervous, their little night light that they keep on all night long that I chose from a thrift store purposely so that they could have light and it would be beautiful. I just really hope that they feel loved from me in those little moments when I can't always verbally express, or I've messed up, or where I have fallen short as the perfect mother, which there's no such thing. I know that they can go in there, especially my 10-year-old, being able to have her help me decorate her room and to be able to choose to be surrounded by those little Polaroids of her and her best friends, to have the wallpaper that she chose and the art that she chose, and to have made her like a cushy big bed, and she wanted a queen size bed where she could go and feel safe. And so I just love the home for those reasons. And the reason I feel so passionately about it is because I do know that not everybody has the means to just go create the perfect magazine-worthy dream home or room. But for me, it's not about that. I have taken thrift store bedding and washed it as best I could and put it on my kids' beds with the cheapest sheets. But I have put love and intention behind every single thing in their room. When I didn't have any money, when Ty was struggling after we had come home, after we had Peyton and before we'd come home from California, I remember it was the first time that I learned how to like really go thrift for something. And I remember buying this old waterbed headboard. And we had this house in Gilbert, and it was like, it's a long story, but we'd had a foreclosure and we didn't really get to own it, and then we had to rent it. It was this horrible, nasty, welcome to like, what was that? That wasn't early 2000s. That was like 2006 or 2009. And I remember painting it cream and turning it into this big shelf. It was like a waterbed headboard with like a shelf on it, hanging it on the wall, putting some plants on it, and feeling like so proud of myself that I had just turned this $5 piece of junk into home decor and hung it on a huge wall in my house that was otherwise empty. And it felt beautiful to me. I felt like I had done something good. I felt like I had contributed to our family by saving money and making our home somewhere that was beautiful and comfortable and safe. And I just remember feeling so proud. So I do have a testimony of the fact that it doesn't take $1 million to create a home that is beautiful and cozy and makes you feel safe. I just want to know what you guys think about this. I've been talking this whole time, but I did want to do this on a live so that I could see some of your thoughts and what you think and hear some of your feedback. I just wanted to share with you my life experience and what has led me to want to nurture your abilities to create your own home. Because if the budget isn't enough to finish your entire house, which spaces are most important to you? And then certainly you can't afford to hire a designer. We've talked about those prices, my prices the other day, and I understand that. But I want to give you the power to be able to create your own homes for your own families and find your own self-esteem through doing so. Because the other thing I believe so much is that when I create a home for my family, not just because I love design, but because I am a female, human, mother, woman, that I am living my higher purpose by creating a home for them that is safe and beautiful. Because when you walk into churches or to the temple or to any of those spiritual places, if you go to Italy and you see the Sistine Chapel, it is beautiful and decorated and painted intentionally and beautifully, because I believe that Heavenly Father wants us to live in environments that are beautiful. Do we all have that opportunity? No. But if we can help somebody have that sort of environment, which is what I feel like I get to do for the lots of you, that is my life's passion, is to not only create it for my family, but then to go one step further and help you create it for your families on like any budget, any time, whether you're renting, whether you live in a mansion, whether you live, literally my mom used to say, if my Nana had a shoebox to live in, it would have been the most, dang it. If my Nana had a shoebox, it would have been the most beautiful shoebox. And she had barely better than a shoebox. And she still managed to make it a beautiful home for my mom to grow up in. Okay, I want to see what you guys are saying. I'm such a baby today. That's so good. Feeling safe in a space and help create it. I am just so lost. I never have any idea where to start. For me, it really is about, if you have kids, I usually start in my kids' rooms. This applies for when we move. It's sort of a starting over process for me, or I'm like excited for the new design. So I kind of start over every time we move. And this is how I'm going to relate it, because I know I've had a decorated house since I lived in an apartment. But I usually start with my kids' rooms. And in my kids' rooms, I usually just start with a safe bed and a cozy bed. And if that's all I can get to, that's all I can get to. And then I try to put pictures of themselves or happy memories up on their wall. Art that's fun and colorful and inspiring, and that makes them feel like a kid. And those are sort of the places that I start. And then I go to a rug, and then I go to a dresser. Otherwise, their clothes can stay folded in a laundry basket in the corner of their room. That's not going to ruin their lives, but a cozy bed, not on the floor, if that's something that you can do. If there's any way to get it up onto something, I do feel like that creates a feeling of safety when you're not on the floor. When we lived in the basement of our friend's house, we had to sleep on the floor, and I remember she had tons of cockroaches, and I was like, get me off the floor. So maybe that's my own trigger, but those are my things. I'm actually working on creating a from start to finish, like whole home, where do you start, room by room thing for you guys to buy. So not even necessarily part of the subscription, but like a course that you could buy, which it will be really inexpensive, still less expensive than one in-home design consult. It's such an important thing that people don't think about. They think, I can't afford new furniture, so this family gets what it gets. And that's the other thing, is that old furniture that you find from thrift stores that you just throw a coat of white paint on can change your whole entire life. Like if you found a twin bed there, and if it was even mismatched twin beds for the same room or for whatever, those little things, if you can find them, if there's any way to sell something or do work for somebody and create that little bit of money to get that really does, it's worth it. Like, I know we have to feed ourselves. I know that we have to like have some air conditioning, especially if you live here, because we cannot die and we need water. But I honestly believe that like some of those key furniture pieces are the next thing that make you feel safe and whole and happy and keep you alive. I also had the opportunity to work in Ecuador after I graduated from high school, actually a few years after, when I was 20. And I worked in an orphanage with tiny little babies. And those sweet little babies were just crammed into these rooms at these orphanages, and the nuns, were doing the very best that they could. But my heart was literally broken at the fact that there was like 2 per bed, like just these things that I take for granted that our kids get. And they were they were crammed in there, and there was no homey feeling, and there was dirty toys, and there was all these kinds of things. So I just know how important it is to your like social and emotional development as a child to grow up in a safe environment. I'm doing something tomorrow that I can't wait to tell you about. I'll tell you about it on stories just so that I don't make this so much information, but I feel so strongly about that. Thank you. My home has been the same decor as when we moved in 10 years ago. I was so over it, but after your Find My Style class, it was exactly what I needed. Oh, that makes me so happy. The Find My Style class is like my love child. I didn't even know that it would be, but I have so much that I want to do with it because it has impacted so many people in the same way that Linda is telling us. No, Lindholm Life Blog is saying in here, because it really did add so much value, and I found so many people being inspired by it, which just made me so happy. My daughter and I live in a 500 square foot, I'm trying to use my hands to like block, in an area that most homes are at least 4 times that, but in our space, it feels so cozy because we're surrounded by things that we love. That's all that matters. It doesn't have to be what somebody else loves, what Joanna Gaines says we need to love, even though we love her. And I want to do everything she says. It just has to be what we love. If you love this kind of art or this kind of thing, or even if at the moment you think you love this pillow and it just makes you so happy because you sewed it yourself and you have it on your couch, that is worthy of your home and is therefore called home decor. Your story is so beautiful, Jade. This is just reinforces my dreams and what I know of a purpose home, a sanctuary for all who step in my life. Oh, I love you. I remember you saying the paint is cheap and makes a huge difference. And man, was that true? We painted some walls. Painting walls will change your life. I'm just reading some of these comments. I have worked with refugees. Every one of their homes was immaculate and decorated with their means. They talked about decorating their tents in the refugee camps. I remember my husband also served in Panama, his mission. And I remember that he came home and told me like they literally had like huts in the poorer parts where he served. And yet they hung their tapestries on the dirt walls, and that's what they did because it made it feel like a home to them. And that's just a universal principle that your environment is what is the space in which you grow and learn. And that is so important. It's so important that it feels like you, that it reflects you, that it has touches of you in it, and that it has things that inspire you to do better, be better. Why do you think we all loved a wall quote? Because it made us remember that we were going to live, laugh, love for all those years. When we were wanting to scream, kick, and yell, we were like, heck no, I'm going to live, laugh, love. That's what I'm going to do. And it was like so inspiring to remind us. I have a picture in my master bedroom of the temple that Ted and I got married in, so that when I come in here and when I want to kill him dead, I remember the covenants that we made and that we are an eternal family and that we're in this. And then I say my prayers and I repent for being such a mean wife. And I come back out there and we feel better. Your decor is supposed to inspire you and make you feel some kind of way. I live in an insanely affluent and rich community with gorgeous custom mansions surrounding me. I do my best to love and nurture my little 1960s Rambler to make it a wonderful home for my kiddos. I'm so proud of you because it just does not matter the size of your home. I'm so proud. We're building right now. Okay, hi, Calissa. And being in our little temporary home is so frustrating. I have to remind myself to be grateful constantly. Today I'm so happy to have a warm shower because when I was in Ecuador, we didn't have those, so that is a luxury. Growing up, we also moved lots and lots, and my mom was so good about making it cozy. That makes me so happy. I'm late joining, but I just want to say to make a rental home more comfortable and homey. I struggle with not being able to change things. I will repost the link to swipe up for the rental question in my stories after this because I have a whole 8 things that you can do to a rental home to make it feel more cozy. And I think it will really help you because I worked really hard on it, and we lived in a rental we lost our first house, like I said, and then we were renting the last until we moved in here 3 years ago. We were renting for 6 years before that. Wait, 3 + 2, 5. Yeah, for 9 years before that, we were renters. So I have lots of good tips about that. Building a nursery, I couldn't really afford it after a really tough and traumatic pregnancy. Was truly healing. That's the other thing. There's so many decorating moments. I remember when I couldn't have can I still have kids? I can have them. I got 3. But when I was struggling to get pregnant after Peyton, and it had been 5 or 6 failed IUIs, I remember it was almost Christmas time, and I had been saving this room in our rental house as a nursery for the kid that we were waiting for 5.5 years. And I remember finally just being like, that's it. I'm not waiting anymore. I'm just going to turn this into a playroom for my daughter that I do have, and I'm going to move forward. And so I remember for Christmas, I turned that into a playroom for her and surprised her. And sure enough, it made me feel so good. It made me feel like I was just ripping down the walls. Like I was just like, it is what it is. I'm having acceptance. I'm just going to move forward. And I felt so happy to give her that. And of course, I found out 4 days after Christmas that year that I was pregnant with my son, Miles. So I think there's something healing about it. Paused. Trying to let it go and then actually letting it go. And home decor has always been an outlet of that for me. That and maybe hitting the gym or something. My now 15-year-old has very bad anxiety since about 4 years old. I've always taken extra care of her room. She has never said, but I hope it makes her feel like you said, and explained it perfectly. That's the thing that I'm trying to say for sure, is like so many of us these days, our kids, ourselves, we struggle with anxiety. We struggle with depression. Allison was in my class, the Allison show in Utah that I taught, and she's like, my favorite place is my bed. And I love that because it's where she feels safe. It's where she feels protected. If you don't know her, she was hit by a car while running, and she has always talked openly and talked about struggling with anxiety and depression. And I know for her, that place felt really safe to her. And that if she makes it an environment that's maybe a little more happy and is surrounded by good pictures and art and happy memories and bedding, that can not only be a place that she feels safe, but also a place that motivates her and makes her feel excited that she is alive and that she gets to be a part of it and kind of pulls her out of those depressions. And so I know that's true for everybody. It's true for me. It's true for our kids. So many people are just struggling so bad. I mean, so many young, sweet little angel babies are taking their lives and feeling like there's no hope. And I'm not going to say home decor will change all of those things, but I really genuinely believe that safe environments surrounded by positive, beautiful things that make us feel inspired and alive and motivate us to feel alive and want to be alive, can help that so much. Everything starts at home, and that is so much pressure. I understand that, but I believe it. And even when I struggle, I just keep doing it. And my intentions are to create a beautiful home that's safe for myself and for my family. So I love that. We lived in a camper for a short time, and before we moved in, I told my husband I was going to paint the whole thing, and he thought I was crazy, but it made all the difference. You're absolutely right. Okay. I'm caught up so that I can see what you have to say when you have to say it. But I just want you to know that. I just wanted to share my story with you. I just wanted to be able to shed some light on sort of this like intense emotion behind picking a bed or a rug or a thing, or why I just so desperately want to teach you why to do it, because I could just show you, and Instagram is a beautiful place to showcase beautiful rooms in my own house or beautiful rooms of my clients and all of those kinds of things. But as I've been doing that for the last few years, it was like not everybody gets access, and probably the people who want and need access to a beautiful home and want to learn how to do that are the people who definitely or most likely can't afford or don't have the means or the time to pay a designer to come in and to do it. And we are them. We are the people that need our homes to nurture us and to love us and to love our kids and to protect our kids. So I just feel so inspired to be able to come and teach you through my live classes. And this is not, like I said, this is not intended to be some kind of sales pitch. This is genuinely, I don't sell you anything. I can promise you that when you come here, I am so not ever going to shove anything on you, ever. But what I believe will ooze through every pore of my body and will possibly motivate you to want to have it for yourself. I have been that person before there was an Instagram, when there was just a church room or a classroom full of 30 people. I am a passionate, excited person, and I genuinely believe and talk and want to talk to people about the things that I believe in, and this is just one of those things. I believe in women helping women, and I believe that women are the center of your home. I do. I believe that we are the nurturers. We are the creators of our homes. We are the creators of life. We are the creators of this safe space that we get to raise our children in. And I know that that is true, and I know that it's important. I know that it's important no matter what you believe, that this is a place where you are supposed to put your heart and your intention into it so that it's a space where everyone that comes in, whether it's a guest, whether it's the bug spray guy, feels something different when they walk into your doors. They feel something that makes them feel safe, that makes them feel loved, that makes them feel accepted for who they are. I think you can do that. You can create that in your homes for the people that you love and for strangers and passerbyers and for yourself. I've took more time to make my closet a place that I like to be because I happen to find myself in there a lot in my come to Jesuses and when I'm crying on the floor. And I used to sit in dark, crappy closets and I was like, I want this white tile in here and I want to put a piece of art up on this wall because this is the room where I need to be to feel like safe, motivated, accepted, loved, and where I'm probably going to cry the most. And so those things are intentional for me at this point. Things that I look at are intentional. Stuff that's on my wall is intentional. So I just want you to think about that as you're thinking about your home. And I know so many of us are like, it seems like an extra. It seems like a frivolous thing to do to create a beautiful home for myself and for my family. I just promise you that it is not an extra thing to do. It is a necessary thing to do. It is a necessary thing to do. You will feel proud. Your kids will feel proud. Your home will have a feeling when people walk in that say, what is that feeling that's in here? It will be your heart and your soul and your intention and whatever you align yourself with, whether it's God or the earth or the whatever. People will feel that when they walk into their home because you will have created a home that's intentional, that you love, that's cozy, that's inviting through your own two hands and your own creativity. And so I'm just so excited for you. I'm excited for me. This comes from just a long line of women who create homes for their families. And if you have questions and concerns, all these little things you guys are saying, I love them so much. Let's keep DMing too, because it can feel like it's never finished. There are little things in my house that are never finished, but you might have missed the story at the beginning where my room was missing this little piece of border that my mom had never finished, my 4 and 5 year old room, until I was 8 years old. I lived in that room, and you can go back and watch it because it really is a story that I wanted to share, that I felt inspired to share, that I felt called to share on here. A story that I've honestly never shared before with anyone unless you're one of my close friends, and we were at a late night girls night and you asked. So I just wanted you to know that and to know why I feel so passionate and what I believe it will get for you if you help decorate your home and take time to make it a place that you love to live. We don't have to wait. I'm just so excited. I'll get off my soapbox. I don't mean to be preachy. My heart just genuinely believes this and I just want it for you. I want it for everybody. That's why I did the Christmas house last year with your guys' help, because I know for a fact that creating that home for that family, who had taken in her niece and her nephews and her niece into her home, created an environment for them to love and grow and move forward. I believe in it with my whole heart. You will never catch me not living up to this soapbox that I can get on for you, because I believe it with every fiber of my being. And I love you. And I'm so, so grateful. I will add this to IGTV so we can have it forever and ever. I hope that you tell your friends that need to hear this message, because sometimes it's harder for us to tell them, hey, your house is looking a little wrecked. You should live where you love. Let me tell them. Bring them here, babies. Bring them to me, and I will tell them as best I can. And I hope you just know that behind every picture and everything on my feed is just this intention to just help you live where you love. It's not a catchphrase for me. It's not a tagline. It's what I honestly believe. And I'm just so grateful that somehow I have this platform to share this with all of you. I love you so much. I am emotional and I will not apologize for it. I am a woman and I'm full of hormones and feelings and I'm going to cry anytime I want to. I love you guys so much. I will see you on the flip side. Mwah.